Well, please join me in turning off your great distractor. The great entertainer. Well, here we are. We all managed to survive, to wake up this morning and make our way here. I had a brief conversation with my wife this morning. She called her mom. She's going to visit her mom in 3 weeks for a few days. And her mom is diminishing and doesn't remember what she said a few sentences before. And so Jennifer and I had not an unusual conversation, but it was talking about how it is that we come out of nowhere. We suddenly appear in a person who kindly offers us her life for 9 months, and then we get born, and then we go through somebody training intensively for years. And then we get our somebody going, and then we train it how to think and how to do all these incredible high-level skills. We go to school for decades, and then we dance with each other, and then we're of service to each other or a detriment to each other. And then we, one way or another, diminish, sometimes before we die, and then we disappear. It's the weirdest thing. And then we have theories about what happens after, but and we were talking about how it takes us a remarkable capacity of denial or sleight of hand in thinking or something to not realize, I don't have you for long. I don't have this for long. And what is the point of amassing stuff for me or stuff for my clan or my tribe or my, quote, nation? That strange phenomenon we've imagined. So we come to meditate this morning, not just for stress management, for which this is terrific. I mean, there's really nothing any superior to this for managing stress. But also to have some help getting our psychological and emotional lives in order, to learn how to modulate emotion better, and to see the craziness that is our personality. The way liking and I'm going to talk about liking and disliking today at 11 o'clock. But the way that liking and disliking drives us, and it has us act in the craziest of ways, and how life is so unbearable that we get addicted to substances and to various activities, these things, in order to not be present. So then we come here also with the practice of awakening, to really remember before we die, what is it that we really are? To set ourselves free from the identification with this So, and I woke up this morning fairly, maybe an 80%, 70%. And then I sat for a long time, I don't know, maybe an hour and a half. And somewhere during that, the constriction evaporated, and it reframed several things that had happened yesterday, and also reframed the whole process of being alive. That all it takes is a moment of remembering what we are, which is the field of awareness in which everything takes place. And then the stress level drops and the psychological and emotional stuff becomes transparent, and we get to just be. So let's do that together. Let's start with the refuge. Anybody here for the first time? Probably. Oh, a lot. Oh, I'd love to know your stories. How are you here today? And I would guess one way or another, you're looking for something. I hope it's here. If it isn't, keep looking, because it exists. Certainly exists. All right. The Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha, that which woke up in my sitting this morning, is the Buddha. It's the part of us that's awake. And it's not something far away or that we'll get to experience if we're good boys and girls sometime in the future. It's right now. Be aware of your bottom touching the chair. That's it. Notice the mood that's present. That's the Buddha. And then the Dharma, the way things are, there's this remarkable, elegant methodology of practice for waking up. That's the Dharma. But also the way things are is the Dharma. It's like this. This moment is like this. So then we meditate not to self-improve, though that happens, but we meditate to become aware of what exists now, which is where the door to freedom is. And then Sangha, this is the community of practice. And the broad community of practice, all beings who are waking up, all beings who have had some glimpse of being awake. I spoke last week about enlightenment. I invite you, those of you that weren't here, to take a peek at that. And I'm going to pick up where that left off. At 11. Oops. Is this coming out there into the room? I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. Think about what you're singing about. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya, Namo Sanghaya. Well. Usually you can't tell when someone else's mind wanders. But when they get 2 bars behind the song with the guitar, you know their mind has wandered. Got to get the oil changed on the car this afternoon. It's about 3,000 miles late. It's important. So let's sit. Let us land here in this moment. And the miracle of awareness is happening right now. And what does this awareness notice? A body sits here, touches the floor, touches the cushion. Notice the life that's present in what you think of as your hands. And when you attend there, do you find hands or do you find life? And I guess, is there any you finding anything, or is there just awareness and life? Bring awareness into that realm of the universe that you think of as your face. Life again. And ever since that first moment when your mother could no longer breathe for you, there's been this really remarkable inhaling and exhaling. Think of it, all these years. there hasn't been a significant gap in this breathing. And when one does come, it means big changes. So these sensations of breathing can be very useful as a home base in the midst of the vastness of the universe. For as long as you live, whenever you want to do your internal global positioning unit process, where am I? Oh, I'm here. I'm with this breath. For some people, the breath is hard, difficult. They get into controlling and struggling. If that's the case, then use the life in your hands, perhaps, as your home base. Or maybe the sounds that arise spontaneously around you. And that ringing that's an artifact of human hearing, you could take that as your home base. Pick something and practice there for a long time. At least one sitting, but maybe longer, maybe years. And this will make the wandering of the mind more apparent. And then it will become apparent that thoughts think themselves into being, and then somehow, mysteriously, awareness can notice them. And then there's a choice. Well, maybe I'll go back to my primary training object. Stay oriented, become more concentrated. And this is not a process that relies on force or violence or coercion. It's all about compassion and awareness. So let's sit together in outer silence as we explore what it is really to be a human being. the great Thai master of the last, one of the great Thai masters of the last century, Ajahn Chah, offered a brilliant teaching to change our lives. In order to bring your meditation into perfect balance at any moment, simply remember, this moment is like this. It's like this. If you're striving to become more concentrated, it's striving. If the mind is in bliss, it's bliss. If there's fatigue or jealousy or fear or loneliness or absolute faith, beautifully balanced energy or restlessness, agitation, worry, it's like that right now. The experiences which are unpleasant, we traditionally, conditionedly, resist and reject and push away. Those which are pleasant, we wrap an identity around. In mindfulness practice, we learn to notice them as they are. They're like this. This is a moment of struggle or toil, or this is a moment of ease. And all the while orienting to whatever it is we've chosen as our primary object, home base. you may discover that awareness notices the mind preparing to think a thought. Or you might discover that it's already thought a bunch of thoughts. Maybe there's some emotion aroused by the thoughts, or maybe the thoughts arise out of the emotion. And you discover there's some sensation in your body, some emotive energy in your body. It's the same waking up. It's the same mindfulness that appears. Not better or worse. Sometimes we fall into trance and lose the practice for months or even years. And then something happens and, oh right, I know how to wake up. I know how to not take every thought, body sensation so seriously. In fact, I am that which wakes up. What a relief. There are terrains in life of great pleasure and delight, and of awful dukkha, suffering, mild to awful. We're invited to wake up to all of it. It's like this. sitting like this, or any time we practice mindfulness, is also a manifestation and practice of intimacy, of closeness, of daring to more fully incarnate, to actually be born, to actually be present, to feel what we feel. To know the thoughts that are running our lives. That's what the saying, in order to love others, we must first love ourselves, means. To have room for everything that we are. And then others can enter our field and we don't have to reject them or have the fantasy they have something that we don't. Embracing the aliveness that is this that you take to be your body. Please become aware of your body where it touches the floor. Feel its uprightness. And notice the intention. I'll speak more about intentions later on this morning. Notice the intention to allow your eyes to open. And then ever so gently, let them peel up. It takes work. And notice what happens. Seeing consciousness occurs. Objects jump out. Not so much they jump out, they just appear. Cricket, would you turn out the lights, please? Hello to those of you joining us on the net this morning. This is a self-portrait, right? This is your greater body. And of course, it's a tiny piece of your greater body because there are hundreds of billions of you in this form. I've been thinking a lot about what to say today about this project that we're involved in. And I know some of you were here last Sunday, and there's a part of me that says, oh, you shouldn't show it again because they've seen it. Well, it's the kind of thing one shows a lot. And the reality is, this mission that we're on isn't complete. And it's a pretty I'm so glad I'm in this role of doing the, quote, fundraising, because I'm learning what it is to be, it happened, I was conscripted to, quote, create PIMC with everybody else. Ruth Dennison gave me that first $10,000 check and said, do it. And I went, I don't know how to do that, but I learned. And asking for money, it's not natural for me. But over time, I'm realizing I'm not asking for anything for me. I happen to have a vision. We need access to this building for people who can't walk in. It's not a, as I say in the video, it's not a whim. It's an incredible oversight. And the reality is, any one of us could need to come in a wheelchair tomorrow. One tiny little capillary in the brain blowing, or a small fall down the stairs, or a minor car accident. So I'm going to show the video and then speak about it a little bit, and then we'll go on to other things. Note this, the file is called Final MP4. Though it's not final, we're going to try to cut it down to 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes. I got some good feedback about that, which is hard. But here it is. I hope it is. All this technology, I hope it works. Hello, my name is Robert Beatty, and I'm the founder and guiding teacher of the Portland Insight Meditation Center. I'm speaking to you today to ask you to help make Portland Insight Meditation Center accessible to people in wheelchairs. We've had this issue since we purchased the building, now almost 15 years ago, and it's really time that we make everyone welcome. There have been members of the community who have participated for years and then dropped out because they no longer could enter the building. Imagine how that would be. This is your spiritual community, and suddenly you get to watch on TV. Several months ago, it became apparent to me the urgency of getting our friends in wheelchairs into the building. So we purchased an aluminum ramp, and it's semi-functional. It's a lot of work. The person cannot enter the building autonomously, but it's been inspiring to see our friends being able to enter the building, and that's part of why we're moving ahead now so firmly to make this happen. As Siddhartha was awakened to the realities and the challenges of life by his encounters with the heavenly messengers, I've had two marvelous teachers who have made clear to me how easily I could be in their shoes and how significantly they need and desire to be in the center.
Well, we moved into this neighborhood about 2 years ago, and I was walking around rolling around with my stepdad, and we came upon this Insight Meditation Center. And I said, wow, what kind of fate is that? And we rolled around to the front, and we saw stairs. And I said, rats, and we rolled around to the side, more stairs, and I said, rats. Well, I guess that's some kind of fate too.
I was attending PIMC about 3 times a week, and as I lost my mobility and that became more difficult than impossible, I felt like I deeply lost my community.
I looked up PIMC online, and I said, I found Robert's name, and I emailed and said, do you think I could come by when you're sitting and just sit in the garden outside? And I wasn't intending to be so plaintive and pathetic, but I really did want to sit with a group, so you need other people to make it work, and that's why Sangha is one of the 3 refuges. It's not 2 refuges and then, you know, oh yeah, maybe get together with other people once in a while.
Community is so important to our spiritual practice. And when you tune in via the internet, what you miss is being able to come together at the end and join hands in a circle and look at each other. We look at each other in the eye, and we send love and kindness and good wishes for everybody that has joined hands in the circle. And then at the point before we release, we send all that joy and good wishes to the broader community.
It's a very reasonable project. We have drawings, we have a contractor, and we're ready to go, and all we're needing now is adequate funding. This isn't a whim, or this isn't something to do because it will be politically correct or because it would look good. This is something to do because human beings really need access to this building and the teachings and community that's here. It's something that's really essential. And because it's essential, I invite you to participate as fully as you can to make what for you is a meaningful gift. Keeping in mind, as you write that check or as you go online and make a donation, keeping in mind that what you're doing is actually helping real human beings get access to the Dharma.
I really look forward to the day that I can actually get into the center by myself and practice with community. And it would be really nice if that happened before die.
Cricket, could you put on the lights? Thanks. How many of you listen to NPR? Says a lot about the demographic here, doesn't it? 3 times a year, they interrupt their programming to talk and talk and talk. And they're pretty creative. I just listen to see, how is this person going to say it? And then as I reflect upon this, how am I going to say it? And the reality with us humans is we need to be asked directly and often. Because there's so many demands on our time and energy. And well, I'll get to it, or we're moved, but then we don't act. And I'm learning about that in that we had early gifts toward this project from community members that brought us to $29,000 out of the 44 that we need to do the ramp. The door enters there. Last Sunday I did this, and then since then there's been $3,100 come in. And interestingly to me, it comes in right after the ask. And then it goes quiet. So I'm asking again. But I want to frame it in the way that it's I'm so glad I get to do this because I'm learning about it. in the Buddhist teachings, there's the 10 paramis, there's the 10 qualities to develop. The foundational one is generosity, the first one. Then there's compassion and all the other things. But generosity, which is the act of going, mine, ours. And the realization that, thinking of Rumi, inside the great mystery that is, we never really own anything. So what is this strange competition we feel then before we go one at a time through the same gate? Our lives are one creative moment after another. We're creating who we are and the world that we live in. And we have incredible power in that. And one of the ways that we create is what we do with our funding, our finances. So I invite you, before you leave today, there's an iPad. Do we have the iPad out, Avi? No? Let's get it after. There's an iPad back there that you can go on there and use a card and make a donation. As much as makes sense to you. And if $5 is what makes sense to you, then do that. Every little bit is of great significance. And what that means for you, I think, is when you come to the center and you want to go out into the backyard, or we go out in the backyard because we're going to do some movement out there because it'd be so easy now rather than all have to, that when you walk out there, you realize, I contributed to this. I made this happen. This is part of my creativity in the world. And my prayer is that not one of us in this room who isn't already in a wheelchair, that we ever need to come in a wheelchair, but odds are we're going to. And so to not lose our community at the time that we most need it is what if we think of it, quote, selfishly, we're investing in our own well-being and helping our friends who can't walk in is also helping ourselves. So I have a one-page handout that we'll put, I guess, back by the door. Please help yourself on the way out. And if this moves you, use your phone before you go home, or go home today and use the computer and make what is for you a significant gift. And then you'll feel good. I think generosity is one of the most fun things. The more you get into it, I've been practicing this myself for years, and I've taught many people. And the stories that one hears from people who start taking generosity as a practice, it's like, oh, this thing happened. This person showed up, and I was able to help them, and whew, it felt so good. Because it's the connection with the other. And all this holding on and defending of stuff, we all know we can't hold on to any of it. So what's going to happen now, Jim will do a slightly shorter than usual, if you can, movement, and then we'll have some announcements. And then I'm going to pick up where I left off last week at the 4 stages of enlightenment from the Theravadan model, and talk about the reduction of suffering through greed and weakening greed and aversion. So here's the way. Weaken your greed and let go. Thank you. And thank you to those of you on the net who participate. And you too can go to your computer. Thanks, Jim.
So, here we are. Standing, taking a full breath. Up on the toes and back on the heels. See how the balance is today. You can put your arms in a neutral position and feel the strength of your toes and ankles and instep, and your balance gets organized one way, and then put your hands on the small of your back and then continue. It's all changed. And then forward. Same toes, same legs, but when the arms are in a different position, it's got to get organized a little differently. All right, relax. Feel the toes and heels connected to the floor. Sink a little bit and let the arms rise. And sink. So we notice the fluidity of the shoulders, the fluidity of the knees and the hips and the ankles. Once more. So that wakes up the knees and the thighs a little bit. Now we're going to lift and just open to the side and kind of balance our energy left and right. Just a circular, soft movement. Different kinds of fluid joints. In the gauntlet there. What is the attitude of a body that's opening to the world? And then reverse. What's the attitude? Opening to the sky. Simple changes in our movements create different moods and feelings throughout the whole body. And one more. We come to stillness, but the sensations don't stop. Gesture ends, but the aliveness is totally apparent. Stretching up and across. What are the predominant sensations? Hearing the floorboards adds to the gesture. And coming to stillness again. It's like the after image when you see bright lights. You close your eyes, you can still see the lights after image. We have this hum to the nervous system as we create these gestures, and they stay with us for a bit. Reaching across and doing cloud hands. One palm facing us, one palm facing the earth. Switching, the upper hand representing the cloud in the sky, the lower hand representing our connection with the earth. The shadow of the cloud moving across. So some gestures are very gentle and nuanced. And we surrender our arms down for a second. Some gestures can be much more engaging. Imagining a stone to a pond. We'll sink and open the arms, spreading our influence into the earth and letting it radiate out across the floor, across the county, across the state. Here we stand, creating a small gesture, but it reverberates through the whole macrocosm. And again, the mood changes when we intend to connect with the whole planet. And pausing. Noticing the breath, noticing the contact with the floor. We'll reach up again and touch the sky. And then bringing the hands together. Appreciate all the support from the whole group to create these group gestures. I'll be here Saturday doing this off and on. We'll be moving for the Qigong retreat and then sitting and listening to some poetry, quiet meditation, and move some more. It'll go by really fast, I guarantee. Thank you very much. Oh, you're ready. Sorry, lost my hand.
You want me to use the mic? Okay. Check, check, check. Good morning, Sangha. Good morning up there in internet land. In case you don't know who I am, my name is Avi, and I am community coordinator here, and I have a few announcements. Speaking of what Robert was saying about the donation, we know where the iPad is, and it will magically materialize in the front of the room in a little while. Robert also sent around emails, and if you've received that email, the email contains a live link that you click on and it'll send you to a payment page, which you can actually access on your smartphones, those of you who have smartphones. So that's another way to do it. Let's see, on Wednesday, June 13th in the evening, we've got a new nonviolent communication practice group with Doyle and Kirsten. Kirsten, are you around? Kirsten is not here today. So this nonviolent communication practice group is really for people who have had at least some formal training, have completed at least one class in nonviolent communication. There is information about that on our calendar and on the website. On the 16th, June 16th, Jim will be doing his Qigong half-day retreat here. It'll be from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. If you liked what he was doing this morning, it'll be 4 hours of that, which will be really great. Then on June 23rd, we have our Buddhist movie night at Pmc Little Buddha, be showing at 6:30 p.m. Mickey, are you here? Mickey is here, who is graciously offering the time for that. Mickey, could you raise your hand? And if you have any questions, she would be happy to help you with that. Then on July 7th, we've got the Pmc Monthly Retreat. We are starting to have these monthly retreats. There will be more details coming soon. Then on July 8th through 20th, Mountain Waters Retreat with Robert. I believe that there are still spaces available. And then on Sunday, July 9th, the second Sunday will be our next potluck. And by the way, we've got a potluck today. So hopefully a bunch of you have a bunch of casseroles and stuff that you want to unleash on the rest of the Sangha. We always welcome that. Whatever hidden special recipes you have, please bring them out. Just some other random things. Please join us for Sunday hospitality. This is a great way for you all to get to know one another, which is a large part of the reason that we're here, is getting to know one another and really getting grounded in our community and really feeling like we all belong here. We have a volunteer need. We need somebody to coordinate gardening. It's the springtime and flowers and things are growing and popping out all over. It would be really useful if we had somebody who was willing to take that on. If you're willing to take that on, please see me or contact Kirsten if you have her email address. If you wish to engage with this community further at a deeper level, please consider volunteering some time. That is another way in which you can communicate to make this community continue on into the future. Please contact Kirsten or me. We'd be happy to set you up with any way of contributing to this community that feels good to you, which also allows you, again, to get to know people here at a deeper level. We have a number of other sits during the week. We have, I think it's 5 or 6 sits. They are of varying sizes. This one is the mothership. It's the largest one, but the other ones are smaller and more intimate. If that's what appeals to you, please check out the website for that information. We also have spiritual friends groups that allow you to practice and discuss the Dharma with people on your own schedule in your neighborhood. If you want to connect with one of those, please see me. If you want to start one of those, please see me and we can get you started going with that. We have our transitions project over here. Any kind of donations of things that you don't need, if you bring them here, we will get them to the transitions project down in Northwest Portland, and that helps homeless people get a restart on their lives, and it's a really wonderful thing. We also make Dharma consults available on request. And if you have an issue that is coming up for you in your practice and you want to speak with another practitioner, or if you want a fast track to getting started with a meditation practice, one of our teachers would be happy to help you. These are 30 minutes. These are free of charge, our gift to the community. Please see me and I'd be happy to arrange that for you. And then finally, if you have any other questions about this community or you want to engage with it in a deeper level, please contact me, email me, see me, phone me. I'm in the office Mondays through Thursdays in the mornings. And we've got 1 or 2 other things. I believe Kate has an announcement. Kate? Yeah, Robert, could Kate have the mic?
No, is the answer no?
Oh, he's getting it.
My name's Kate. For those of you who don't know me, I have been working as the hospitality coordinator for some number of years here. And I've decided it's time to step back. I'd like to see some new energy around volunteer coordination and happy faces and the way we serve our community. So if anyone is interested in doing hospitality coordination, please see me or Kirsten or Avi. I'm sure would be glad to take the information. And speaking of hospitality, we do have potluck today. So whether or not you brought something to share, please come and share your time. Step through the mystery door into the wondrous world of love. Mm-hmm. Thanks, guys.
Here, Paul has. Here, let me see. I think it's just. Oh, actually, there you go.
Hi, we have a number of fruiting trees out in the front of the property here, and so every summer I always do this at the last minute, so hopefully I can kind of get this a little proactive. The cherries are not quite ripe yet, but I would say by next week, if anybody would like to start getting out there, just be prepared to come up with some containers and things like that. Hopefully the crows won't beat us to it. It's a matter of timing. So there's a few out there that are ripe right now, but probably going to take a few more days. There's also some plum trees and some pear trees and a little apple tree. So over the next coming weeks, if you want to come out there and partake in the bounty, please do.
Hi, I'm Melanie. I'm the housekeeping coordinator, and I actually have a smaller request. We serve a lot of people food every week, and the kitchen really needs cleaning after that. So I have 2 volunteers that have stepped back, and it would be a once a month thing where you would come in pretty much when you can during the week, just once a month, to clean the kitchen for all of us. So come see me, or Avi, or Kirsten. I'll be here today. Thanks.
That everything? Well, I hope you all have the blessings of peace and joy in your day today. Please join us for hospitality after Robert's Dharma talk. Have a wonderful day.
Well, thank you for being here. Thanks for staying for the talk. It's a lot to devote one's Sunday morning to this, and from where I sit, it reflects a lot of wisdom. Oh, I got a reminder from Cricket, our wonderful, very patient bookkeeper person. Cricket, would you wave? She, the details of receipts and things like that don't come so naturally to me. And Cricket has been really patient, and I'm getting better though, really, I'm getting better. Of course, it's so important to keep track of things financially, and Cricket does a marvelous job, so thanks. Oh, and she reminded me that if you're going to use the iPad to make a contribution for the ramp, it's really good if you put a little notation in the notation box. Similarly, if you want, you can use envelopes back there if you want. So I want to continue where I left off last week. Last week, it seems like 10 years ago, doesn't it? And it seems like no time at all. Time, of course, is a concept and doesn't even exist, but we sure experience it interestingly. This is a little poem teaching from Hafiz, 15th century, I think, Sufi master, poet. You carry all the ingredients to turn your life into a nightmare. Don't mix them. That's it. Actually, there's more. You carry all the ingredients to turn your life into a nightmare. Don't mix them. You have all the genius to build a swing in your backyard for God. That sounds like a hell of a lot more fun. Let's start laughing, drawing blueprints, gathering our talented friends. I will help you with my divine lyre and my drum. Hafiz will sing 1,000 words you can take into your own hands like golden saws, silver hammers, polished teakwood, strong silk rope. You carry all the ingredients to turn your existence into joy. Mix them. Mix them. You carry all the ingredients to turn your existence into joy. Mix them. Mix them. I have a lot of faith in this practice. And that faith is refreshed, renewed. Every time I discover myself in one of those contracted spaces I spoke of earlier, and then spend time to be with it. There's so many ways to stay in it, to distract and to not turn toward it. But when I take the time and I stop and just turn toward it, like those big radio telescopes. So what's really happening here? How can I experience it really directly? And then the miracle, the miracle of mindfulness, the alchemical transformation happens, where it becomes obvious, not as a thought, but as a direct perception. All right, that's that old constricted pattern. Right? My family, Jennifer and the dad and my 2 stepkids and I went to the escape rooms yesterday. We got out. You get an hour, and we were out in 56 minutes and 10 seconds. We had some help inside. It was quite fun. I highly recommend them. But of course, it set off family dynamics and step-parent feelings and all that stuff. And it was pretty sticky for me yesterday. So faith isn't, there's belief, which is what's commonly called faith, right? It's in the book, as my teacher Maninder used to say, it's in the book, and since the book was divinely written, then if I believe on that, then I'll be saved. And since I only believe it, I need to change you, because if you believe it too, then I'll feel more secure in my belief. But faith is different. Faith is, we've all dropped things. I have a grandson he's really getting into gravity, dropping things on the floor, obviously. They miraculously reappear. But I can do this a lot of times, and as long as, and we know this theoretically, as long as this is close to the Earth, they both have mass, there's this weird thing called gravitation, and this will happen if I were 10,000 miles out in space, I'd let it go and it wouldn't do that. But as long as I'm here on the Earth, I have great faith that this is going to happen. And I have great faith in mindfulness. And mindfulness exists in a context, which is the context of the Eightfold Path. And Gregory, where's Gregory? There. Gregory and Christine are going to teach an Eightfold Path class starting in September, do you know? Yeah, October. Which I highly recommend. They've done it several times and people love it, and they're both brilliant teachers with great depth. So there's the Eightfold Path, which has to do with developing a worldview that actually fits the world, and then from that developing intentions. How do I want to behave given how I now understand the world? And then moral and ethical behavior. How do I want to use speech? How do I want to use my actions? And how do I want to use my livelihood? And then in the realm of meditation, there's the skillful effort. What makes sense as effort? Well, the effort to put the ingredients together that bring happiness rather than the ingredients that make unhappiness or disaster. And then mindfulness, one step of the Eightfold Path, and then concentration. So wherever we are in our psycho-spiritual evolution, there's a piece of the path that can really be useful to us. Some of us really need to clean up our moral and ethical behavior. When we're struggling with addictive issues, or when our speech is really unskillful, or when somehow or another we're somehow into taking what's not freely given. And until we clean that up, then we're kind of stuck. Doesn't mean we can't meditate. In fact, it's so important to meditate. But the meditation will make us more and more aware, ooh, I'm stuck here, right? Oh, as Ruth Denison put it so beautifully, so many times, Dalink, once you have the Dharma, you can no longer get away with yourself. So things that we used to be able to get away with doesn't work anymore. And that's a relief, because then it's pretty straightforward to do something different. So the purpose, in a way, the purpose of this whole beautifully articulated model and set of behaviors is to come back to the understanding of the world that we had theoretically. Everything's impermanent. We'll never find a solid self. And there really isn't a place where we land where we're satisfied through the senses, because they're always in process. So there's those three characteristics. It's one thing to know about them theoretically. It's another when they start to become part of the fabric of our perception and our understanding of the world. And that's where that term, not a great term, the Enlightenment phenomenon happens. And what happens for us, human beings, it doesn't only happen to people who do spiritual practice, but it makes us more prone, is that something will happen in which we experience ourselves in indescribably different ways. We'll experience ourselves as part of everything. Or every spiritual tradition has different vocabularies. So a Catholic would say, God and I are one. People from the Buddhist world tend to come after such experiences and say, whoa. Everything really is impermanent. And it's okay. Or the slightest desire, I experienced in my meditation that the slightest desire for anything is really dukkha. It's unsatisfactory. I watched myself form as I wanted that thing or I didn't want that thing. Actually, I had an experience of that years ago now. My daughter, it's a long time ago. She was going off to South America to live with a tribe in the Amazon, the Makushi in northern Brazil, and she was leaving for 6 months. And I had said goodbye to her, and I went off to my retreat in Canada. And at the end of the retreat, I got on the, I was at the airport in Nelson, British Columbia, and I got a text from her, my plane is delayed. It looks like we're going to overlap at the airport. And then I went from post-retreat absolute ease to, why is this plane being so slow? And I could watch my mind being irritated by the, and I was with my dear friend Don McEcker, and I teach that retreat with, and I was giving kind of like a baseball summary, the color description of the way this mind was going nuts. It's like, we've already said goodbye, but I could maybe see her again for a few minutes before, and it turned out that we did. I managed to zip there, and then that was gone too. But it was interesting watching the suffering that came from a sudden desire. So, and then others will say, well, I would say, this entire universe is absolutely alive. Every rock, every tree, every person, every star, it's all totally intermingled. And what a relief. And you would all have your own descriptions. And I propose that you've had glimpses of this in your lifetime. Maybe you haven't noticed them, but they're not all that uncommon. But when they occur at some depth and then they're noticed, then they're transformative. It doesn't mean they do all our psychological and emotional work for us. That all remains. But it's like once you've been up in an airplane, the world looks different. Or once we saw the Earth from space, it was different. Because we know it's our little spaceship. It's our little island in the midst of. So last week I spoke about the Theravadan perspective on the four foundations, not the four foundations, everything's numbered. You know why it's so boring and tedious to talk to Buddhists? They always speak with a list. So, let's say one has one of these non-experiences, because let's say one's self disappears, and then there's just what is for a second or 10 or a day. The Theravadan description of it says that there's three things that go away. One is a belief in a self, a belief in an ultimate self, because it's disappeared. And then as it reformed, it realized, whoa, I was gone. The second is doubt in the teachings, doubt in the path. Because this works every time. When we turn toward and open, ultimately that works every time. And then the third is rites and rituals, asceticism. Probably not many of us do animal sacrifices, but the things like this, sitting like this, isn't magic. It's not what wakes one up. One wakes up because one wakes up. You can sit cross-legged. You can lie down. The thing about lying down is the closer to lying down you get, the more likely you are to fall asleep rather than to wake up. But there's I know when early on in my practice, I went to India, and my plan was to stay with my teacher Munindra until I got enlightened. And actually, you can see that guy, the guy who went to India. He's one of the pictures over the coffee urns in there. That's at the Bodhi tree with my preceptor, Bhikkhu Rastrapal. And look at that guy's jaw. I'm going to get enlightened. And I did. What I got instead was kidney stones. And I came home after 6 weeks, just because it was crazy. And Manindra got sick. And so, rites and rituals. Doesn't mean practice isn't important, but no practice is, we can't push our way with the practice and have that practice wake us up, because the waking up is the moment when we stop trying to do or be anything. So those are big things that happen with a glimpse of freedom. And then, as Jack Kornfield puts it so beautifully in the title of his book, after the ecstasy, the laundry. And then we get to deal with our depression and our addiction and the way we've been conditioned to be intimate or not intimate, and then we get to do all that work. And one way to sum up that work is that with the next great relinquishing, the next great seeing through, there is a profound weakening of lust and hate. A profound weakening of, I want that, I don't want that. Think about that in your life. Asterisk, come back here. Also in wise understanding, the first step of the Eightfold Path, there's the paradigm, the freedom paradigm, which was the first thing the Buddha taught, which that applique on the back wall is actually that sermon. It's him talking to his 5 friends. And he said in brief this: there's a lot of suffering, isn't there? And there is. Birth, sickness, old age, decay, death. Not having the experiences you want, having experiences you don't want, not being with the person or persons you want to be with, or being with person or persons you don't want to be with. All day long, our moods fluctuate. We're liking and disliking, and it's part of what I was observing yesterday in the interactions with the family. And I love these people. But this one would do that, and there'd be this disliking. This one would do that, and there'd be this liking. And it's utterly tiresome. But that's what the mind is like. So the first of the 4 Noble Truths is this dukkha, and to acknowledge there really is a lot of suffering. And then to look, once we can bear that like a wagon bears a load, to look and see what's causing the suffering. Why am I suffering? And the Buddha's teachings propose that it's because the mind wants something to be different. Reality is as it is, but I'd rather have it be different. Thank you very much. Right? And it can be tiny, and it can be really big. And sometimes it's really big. Let's say some beloved one of ours dies, and then we're attached, and then we grieve, because I really would like it to be, I'd like them still to be here, and they're not. And there's a process that we humans go through, that we grieve, and if we grieve fully, then over time, what it transforms into is compassion and love. So, this collection of unenforceable rules is the self. I, me, mine, mine. I want it different. I want less pain. I want more pleasure. And since this reality sucks, I want to become in a new reality. I can't wait till this happens. It's fun actually watching my stepkids. Nina's 17, Adrian turned 14 yesterday, and they have all these, I want this, I want to become this, I want to become that, and they will, of course. And then they're going to bump their noses on also all the disappointments that I have also older kids, and I've seen that. Of course, I have myself watching all the nose bumping that's happened in this lifetime. So, imagine this, back to the asterisk, an attenuation of liking and disliking. More ability to say, oh, it's like this. Oh, I should finish. Sorry, I left you hanging. Suffering, its cause, craving, and then there's the sweet relief which is nirvana, what the Buddha called nirvana, which is the quenching of this fire of suffering. And that arises somehow through realizing how this mind is what's causing the suffering. It's creating a self that suffers. And when that self that suffers melts or disappears or pauses, there's this glimpse of, oh, right. It really is okay. Which doesn't mean we don't have to act responsibly and maybe at the cost of our lives take stands, but there's a different understanding of it. So imagine this, the second stage of awakening, a deep attenuation of wanting and not wanting, relief. And then the third stage in the Theravadan model is, they say, the complete elimination of liking and disliking. Or the complete loss of attachment to it, I guess that might be it. So life would be really pretty nice then. What would motivate people then, ask? Well, compassion. Right? And then the fourth stage, the arhat, is the fully realized person. And that has five more attachments. One is attachment to the jhanas, very highly refined concentration states. The material jhanas, the immaterial jhanas. I understand the first four jhanas. I've had some experience with them. And what they really are is states of where your mind, let's say if you're sitting and you become very, very at ease, and then a little smile comes on your face and you pay attention to that smile, and then there's a happiness in that, and you leave the smile and you pay attention to the happiness and you're just happiness. Or your body has a little buzzy, tingly, piti, they call it, and you turn toward that, and what you are is this beautiful sensation in your body. And then that can be refined down into a place of equanimity, just great ease, not wanting anything, very little wandering mind, if any, and it's really nice. And the purpose of those is to rest the mind and the brain so deeply that then you turn it toward watching things arise and pass away, and insights can arise. You can really understand the nature of things. So there's the attachment to the jhanas, conceit, subtle I am, hangs on till the very end, restlessness, right till the end, and ignorance, ignoring the fact of our absolute interbeing. So, at the level of working to attenuate liking and disliking, I think that's where we find ourselves. So, this is the kind of conversation you can only have with meditators, isn't it? Think of some of your friends and you say, you know, I got up this morning and I realized I was disliking this, and I was observing that disliking, realizing how it caused me suffering. What? You are out of your mind. Why pay attention to that? I mean, our team won last night, or this horrible thing is happening. But that's the path, isn't it? To start noticing liking and disliking and the tensions that arise in the body. I like it, I don't like it, I like it, I don't like it. And how quickly it happens. I shared this a few months ago. I was driving home, and I was in no hurry. I wasn't hungry. Roads were pretty empty, and I came to a stoplight, and it turned red, right in front of me. And I noticed irritation that I had to lift my foot off the gas and put it on the brake. And it sounds silly, but it was so interesting to me to watch. There's a little being bent out of shape because the light changed. It wasn't even like I was on my bike and I had to then exert to get up to speed again. It was the car. And that happens to me all day long. You know, I want to put something away, and there's a narrow spot on our kitchen, and Jennifer's looking in the fridge again, and she's in my way. And it's trivial, but it's happening, isn't it? It's all happening all the time. So how do we attenuate it? We love it. We notice it for what it is. We see this conditioned self creating discomfort, and then reacting, oh, I'm getting what I want now. My song is playing. I like it. And then, oh, pleasure. This is the song I'm infatuated with right now. I usually have one. Anybody else have one song that sticks like for a day or two or a week? Not everybody. Huh. I thought it was normal. So, I want to do this. I was going to show you slides, but there isn't time. I'm not going to do that. So, is there free will or is there not free will? One of the great questions, right? As I understand these teachings, they say both. One is, nah, there's nobody here, nobody makes any decisions, the whole thing is just running on and it's relax. And the other is, you're responsible for every thought, action, and word. And you will be held responsible for them. And both are true. Because our thoughts, words, and actions are the things we build our world with. And, hearkening back to the Rumi poem. So, I'm not going to, there's a beautiful model called the 12 Steps of Dependent Origination. Perhaps I'll share that with you next week. But where the rubber meets the road in it, two places. There's one place where the rubber meets the road, which is coming down here. You have a body, and the body's in contact with sense doors, and the sense doors create feeling. A visual sight happens, it's pleasant, and there's liking. A sound happens and it's unpleasant and there's disliking. A memory arises from the past and there's disliking. You happen to chance upon the news and you see some story that's upsetting and there's disliking. And there's a story. And it arises and it exists. And then contact, feeling, Vedana this is called, that feeling, pleasant, unpleasant, or indeterminate, conditions a craving. I want to act. I want to feed this, or I want to not feed this. And then if I don't notice the craving becomes grasping, and the grasping becomes becoming, and then I'm going around the wheel again. I've become a person who has opened another box of cookies. Or I become a person who has answered an email nastily. Or I become a person who has reached into my pocket and made a donation. Subtle, huh? So, I actually think of that. That's an example I have used for years because there was a moment when I was teaching this the next day when that horrible tsunami happened in Thailand. Actually, it makes me teary. 200,000 people. Beachgoers, right? Honey, let's go to Thailand and go to Phuket and have a really nice time. And let's take the kids this time. Gone. But anyway, I was looking at that, and having been in those places, I was deeply moved. And my daughter speaks Thai, and so she was translating some of the things they were saying in the background. And this thing for the Red Cross arose in the corner, and I saw it pop up, and I realized, I'm so powerless, but I can do that. and I was giving a talk on this the next day, and I realized, oh, I just got born as a person who had an impulse to help. And not only was I born with that impulse, I then took out my checkbook. I did it online, but I wrote a check, and I strengthened that in myself. And it's the same thing when you have an opportunity to spend a little time with your child who's struggling with something, or when your spouse needs some care, or when you need some care. So life is presenting us with, it's like this now, and there's no telling what's going to come next. Right? It can come from this vast history of ourselves and the whole world. It manifests itself in this moment, and then the trick is, how shall I respond? What world shall I create? There's that popular story now about the grandmother and the child says, I have two wolves in me, and which one will win? And well, it's the one we feed. And mindfulness is this capacity to see that we're actually being offered choices all the time. Without mindfulness, the thing just goes around and around and around. So in strengthening mindfulness, we strengthen our apparent capacity to choose. And then we can choose. And then we also, of course, being the frail beings that we are, so many times the world, our inner world presents us with, this is the reality, I want to do something and I know it's not good for me. But I just did it again. Well, one thing is we notice that it happened, but also we can then notice there's another pattern that may be arising, which is, you're a bad person, you should have done. And do I want to feed that one or not? Or can I notice that one as, oh, here's the self-hatred beast, right? Thank you for sharing. Not going there. Because there's the practice of mercy. Have mercy on ourselves. Because this human organism, we're very compulsive. There's been a lot of survival value with compulsivity. It's like when you go to a restaurant and you have a particular dish, and then you go there again, you have the same dish because you didn't die the last time, and you know that dish didn't kill you, so you have it again and again. So that attitude of, first off, the willingness to stop and watch. I mean, look at you, you're here on a Sunday morning. Yay for you. How incredible that your sanity and your capacity to contribute love to the world is so strong. You actually got up and came here this morning and stayed the whole time. I mean, think about that. It's not a small thing. And probably you don't give yourself adequate credit for the power of the call from within you, which is bringing you here. Because there's lots of other things you could have been doing. So, then making some time to go to do the chemistry set of sitting down and watching what's happening. And I want to share this teaching from Krishnamurti that many of you have heard. I loved it for years now. It goes like this, recent, Krishnamurti. So, I'm sitting in meditation. My intention is to be awake to and accept everything that arises inside. Now, people sometimes think, well, that's going to make you, really a milquetoast in the world, and you won't act on. This isn't your actions. This is what arises inside you. I just thought of that saying. Marshall Rosenberg said that "should" is the most violent word in the English language. Think about it. It's really an interesting. I've grown into it over the years. That this mind is really restless and agitated and full of this or that. It should be different. reality should be different. That's a total violence. There's no way to be conscious with that. Or you should be different. It's completely violent. So, I'm sitting in meditation, this moment arises, how can I, and I can observe, I like it, I don't like it. There's liking and disliking, so there's the practice right there. And then Krishnamurti, this amazing man who lived a long time, died 20 years ago or so, the seeing is the doing. The moment of awareness is the product. Now there's some of you, no doubt some of you have done, or maybe teach or work in cognitive behavioral therapy, and there's this noticing, here's the thought, here's the attitude, here's the story behind that thought. Now I'll think this different thought and plant this different. That's a useful step. But in meditation, ultimately, we come to simply, all we need to do is fall back into that which is awake. And Krishnamurti said this, transformation occurs only when none of the following are present. Desire to change the experience. Judgment. Analysis. Justification. I'm having this thought and I have these feelings because of this. Grasping. Selfing. Resisting. Or the clincher, believing I am witnessing. That's like this curveball because it just missed me. Transformation occurs only when none of the following are present. Desire to change the experience. What a relief to meditate. And at least for that few minutes each day, surrender completely and say, all right, be what you are, mind. I will love you as you are. I will accept you as you are. Be what you are. Judgment. Analysis. I spent at least 10, or maybe more, years of my meditation doing inner self-psychotherapy. Like, oh, you're thinking that? Well, you're thinking that because your mother did this, and lost in the trance. Justification. Of course I'm angry. She got in my way as I was passing the fridge. I mean, really. Grasping. Oh, this is a nice mental state. I want this to stay. Selfing. These are my thoughts. Resisting. Or believing I'm witnessing. I'm witnessing. So, if our task is to cultivate the ground for experiencing ourselves as the galaxy we started with, though that's kind of limiting, I think, then learning to observe the liking and disliking. And notice how autonomous it is. It happens all day long. I like coffee. Late in the afternoon, I like a good cup of tea. It's hard to get a good cup of tea in the United States. You can't in a restaurant, in my experience. Because it's not hot enough. It has to be 212 degrees to make decent tea. I'm from Canada. I know. But why do I like it? It's because I don't like that dull kind of state. And what does caffeine do? Up, down, up, down. Is it any good for me? Absolutely not. But, There's other things that I've worked hard to graduate from, and blessedly, for the most part, I did. Right? There are some substances and behaviors that are really destructive of us. And with them, we really need to do the work. So, Danny, you want to grab a mic, please? I don't know where it is. Oh, it's here. Immigrants are us. I like that. Push the bottom and hold it for a second or two. No.
Hello? Yes. There's something that's sitting with me that I just wanted to bring up, and I suspected maybe sitting with other people, is the suicide of Anthony Bourdain. And I just wanted to reach out to the Sangha, that if there's anyone on TV or in this room that needs that support or needs that help, people that outwardly are joyful and seem like they're on top of the world, and yet there's a deep sadness inside. So I don't know if you and I talked about it briefly, but I felt like this is a day to address that on some level and just reach out to the Sangha and say, if anyone is feeling that we're here for each other.
I went through a period about 10 years ago when I had very strong suicidal impulses. And I had a plan. I don't think I ever got very close. But that when the darkness comes, and when the lights go out, and then you pretend, and you give Dharma talks that look bright, but inside there's just this anguishing black hole. There's a great book called Darkness Visible by William Styron. I remember reading it. It's the best description of he was one of speechwriter for one of the presidents, very beautiful writer, and he was going to receive one of the highest literary awards in the world in France. And that was when he collapsed. But no one knew. Because it's so much shame. The shame, I shouldn't feel like this, it's my fault. And in depression, in my experience, there's just this black gravity. And these huge public suicides, it does make us more prone. And there will be a spike of people ending their lives this way. So I really thank you, Danny. And if that's the case for you, come see me. Or come see one of the other teachers. But don't think you have, we need each other. And I took SSRIs, selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, for 10 years. And they were a godsend. They helped me so much. And at first I didn't want to take them because, it's shameful to take such. Well, I've been taking blood pressure medication for 30 years. Why would I not take something that would help with my serotonin level? Well, because it's about the mind. So thank you, Danny. It's really, I'll let the kids wait one more minute and say this. What is the point of being alive? Right? Really? Is it another trip to Costco or another? And we're given all these fake promises. The true fake news is that stuff does it. The whole materialistic culture, it's a lie. And so we get it all, and then we feel even more empty. So I think the point is to love each other and to connect and to be willing to be willing to lean and say, boy, I'm in really crappy shape today, I need help. And to give the other person the opportunity to say, well, I'm feeling pretty sane today, it can lean on me for a bit. And that's part of this weaving of community that we're doing, to create a place where we actually feel safe. We had a great class last Wednesday night. I invited people to talk about their cult experiences, and people spoke about their cult experiences, and then also the abusive relationships that they were in, had been in their lives. And to share that with each other, because we're all a walking wounded. I mean, we're banned. If we could just have this balloon above our heads that would show exactly what's going on inside, first we'd be appalled. It's like, you're all as crazy as I am. And then we'd love each other. We'd say, wow, you are hurting. What do we need to do for you to feel better? So, thank you. Very helpful, important. Yes, but be quick because of the kids, but please.
Danny, thank you for mentioning that. That comes on the heels of the CDC report that says that suicide in the last 20 years has gone up drastically in virtually every state in the United States. Mm-hmm. And Robert, as much as you talk about that life is hard, it seems like the message is in the last 20 years it has gotten measurably harder. It is not just hard in a abstract kind of way. It is much harder than it's been. And we all are affected by that, and we all need to come to grips with it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Well, let's stand and make a circle and, oh, I know. Well, may the world go, the world go, the world go. Hey, kids, let's start standing. Let's start standing. Can you all stand up? Can I hold your hand? No. Boop, boop, boop. So, in order to assist ourselves with the heaviness of the moment, I propose that we levitate. We have your game? All right. So the way this works is you think light, happy thoughts like helium or feathers or joy, and you hold hands with somebody. Can I hold your hand? Yep. And then think that light, and you folks at home can do this too. Think that light, happy thought, and then let your knees bend, and then let yourself spring into the air and float a bit. So 1, 2, 3. Now, there's somebody over there doubting, and there's someone over there. Let go of those negative thoughts. Now, over there, I don't know who it is. I'll find you after. Just believe. So lightness, and we're going to hover this time. 1, 2, 3, hover. Now that was better. Did you feel it? Levity of heart. Okay. One last time. 1, 2, 3, levitate. Now that's getting good. Yay. All right, you can all say you levitated. Let's go. Let's sit. You guys stand. Yes. Oh, could I have the mic? I'm not sure where it is. Thank you, thank you. I'll get it. Hi. Did you guys have fun today? So much. Extra fun? Ooh, cool. We were in here meditating. Boring. Oh well, we're grown-ups. All right, so hold a hand if you can, or a foot. Are you ticklish? No. Can I hold your hand? Thank you. We could hold three ways here. I'll put your hand there. Nope. All right. Aren't we lucky to have hands? If we were galaxies only, we couldn't hold each other's hand. But we also manifest as these separate hands. So let's give the hand on your right a little squeeze. Thanks for being here. Thanks for providing a hand that I can feel safe with, and a person I can feel safe with. And then a hand on your left, get that person back. Sneakily, they were wishing you well when you weren't paying attention. They sneaked in under your defenses, get them back. May you be really happy. All right. May all beings everywhere share in the merits of our practice. And thank you again, Danny. May anyone who is suffering the darkness of depression, some of us in this room, and certainly anyone who's contemplating ending it, may we all find someone that we can find love with. That deep, dark, hopeless place can sometimes be a door to spectacular opening. So, spectacular is the wrong word. Can sometimes be an opening into profound wisdom. That's a better word. So, who's going to sing? Yeah, you're sitting together too. Perfect.
May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you. Beautiful. And now, everyone at home on the internet, get ready to take a big deep breath. All the people in the circle and all the people in the inner circle. Have you got a wish? You got a wish? Oh, big cheeks. 1, 2, 3, blow. Yes, we did it. Fantastic. All right, please do come and have a bite of food. Look forward to seeing you soon. Hi, David. I'm pretty...